evening. It is Wednesday, the 26th day of September 2018. And many thanks for joining us on the big story tonight. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Now tonight, the fate of Beatrice Elachi as the Nairobi County Assembly Speaker remains unclear after MCAs elected the Majority Whip, Shege Maura, as the acting Speaker. The MCAs insist Elachi remains impeached, and that leaves a vacuum that makes the Assembly vulnerable. The election of an acting Speaker was in contravention of a court order that had temporarily reinstated Elachi. But even as the mystery on the fate of Elachi lingers, the Jubilee Party, the majority party in the House, seems to be in agreement with the decision of the County Assembly to have an acting Speaker. But pundits of the move say the move is ill-advised and a violation of the law. Was it? The process of picking the acting Speaker was as dramatic as the ouster of Beatrice Elachi, as reported by reporter Rita Tinina.
After a month-long recess, the Nairobi County Assembly resumed its sittings with one main agenda: the election of a speaker, following Beatrice Elachi's impeachment during a special sitting on the 6th of this month.
Can I have the names, please?
3 people were proposed. Ngara MCA Shege Maura nominated MCAs Mary Njambi and Mary Arivisa, who was not in the chamber. Mary Njambi withdrew in support of Shege Maura. Mary Arivisa's proposer also withdrew his nomination. But Arivisa did not take kindly the inclusion of her name in her absence.
Sergeant at Arms, please let Mary be out of the Assembly.
Arivisa would have just withdrawn like fellow MCA Mary Njambi did. But no, she chose to cause drama. Clearly, she has a different understanding of what the title honorable means. She threw herself on the floor, ignored calls to leave the chamber, and had to be dragged out by orderlies. The Deputy Speaker, Paul Kamangu, ordered the Powers and Privileges Committee to look into her conduct. After she was thrown out, the Deputy Speaker declared Shege Maura was unopposed, the acting Speaker.
I, Shege Maura.
Shege Maura's election would have gone on smoothly, but Mary Arivisa ensured the Assembly, which is synonymous with drama, did not disappoint. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Well, on the show tonight, I shall be speaking to nominated MCA Mary Arivisa, who will be joining us live from our city centre studios. She was at the centre of that brief altercation in the County Assembly yesterday. I shall also speak to lawyer Steve Ogola, as well as Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju. But before I speak to them, let me bring in our lead reporter, Sophia Onuna, who is on standby with the acting Speaker for the Nairobi County Assembly. Sophia.
Good evening, Michelle. Yes, there is a new sheriff in the Nairobi County Assembly, elected yesterday unanimously, acting Speaker Shege Maura. He's also the Ngara MCA. Thank you so much for making time for us. And let's get straight into a number of issues that have elicited debate on whether what happened yesterday should have in the fashion it did. Let's begin. Under what law is it that you were sworn in and members elected an acting Speaker? Because some have argued there's a deputy Speaker. Shouldn't that person take over in the interim?
Thank you for having me. First and foremost is to tell the Nairobians that we premised what we did, which is given or provided for under Section 9(4) of the County Governments Act, which I also want you to read here. You can read 4.
4.
Yes.
It says, at any time in the absence of the Speaker of the County Assembly or in matter that directly affects the Speaker, the County Assembly shall elect a member to act as a Speaker as contemplated under Article 178(2)(b) of the Constitution.
So 2 things that are coming out here. That one, in matters that are directly affecting the Speaker. Of course, there are issues that are affecting the Speaker that are also in court. So In that situation, members can elect a member to act as provided for in Article 178 of the Constitution. Yes. And I also want to give you provisions of 178 2B. This is where 2B, where I've ticked.
Okay. In the absence of the Speaker, another member of the Assembly elected by the Assembly.
Yes.
Yes.
By the Assembly can act. Yeah. So that was a premise of what the Assembly of Nairobi did. And we are also aware that the matter is in court. Where the difference is, we did not purport or go to substantively go for another speaker, because there's a law providing for how you go to elect a speaker. Of course, it must be advertised. Members of Nairobi or whoever can apply, and then they are now subjected to an election.
So but I'm not seeing anything talking about acting speaker. It talks about a speaker.
It's here, 4. It says that in matters that are directly affect the speaker, the county assembly shall elect a member to act as a speaker. Yes.
All right, so you talk about matters affecting the speaker, yes. And there could be many matters, but in law, there is an order, yes. That, in this impeachment, following the impeachment of the speaker, that stopped it, yes. And reinstated her. Yeah. As speaker, so that as we speak, there is a speaker for the Nairobi County Assembly. So wasn't it going and in breach of that court order?
What the court order said, and I think it was Justice Mori who gave the ruling that and gave the orders, which we challenged again, was that we cannot go ahead and substantively replace the speaker. Yeah, so it means that we can actually not go out and, call for names and do away with the speaker that is there. What we did is that you must be cognizant that the Assembly resumed business yesterday, and we are now in the last quarter of the session, and proceedings must proceed, transaction of assembly business must go on, yes. Whether one is there or not. And then in the wisdom of the members, they felt that it was important that they go and elect a member in an acting capacity, and that is where when you're doing the introduction, I am still the member for Ngara. If you become the speaker, you cease to be the member of the ward, or you cannot be a member and at the same time the speaker.
So let me clarify on the order from the court. You say that the order was not to proceed with another impeachment attempt, but also wasn't it clear that she continues to be speaker pending hearing and canvassing of this issue in court?
Two things. We cannot. The ruling was about us going out and substantively, replacing her. What we've done, we've gone for the acting capacity, and if I would give you 9.5, it goes ahead to give the provision of how this one member that is put in that position of acting can or will operate until such a time that there's another election, or maybe the members feel that he or she is not the right person to do, and they remove that person. If they don't, then that person is given permission to proceed until such a time that the assembly is going to be in existence.
Right.
Yes.
Because what's confusing is, I imagine by an order not to go to substantively impeach her, then it speaks to she's not impeached in as far as that court is concerned.
First of all, they are legal and political issues. You cannot authoritatively say that she was not impeached, because 103 members out of 107 went ahead to impeach.
Correct.
Of course, she challenged, and it challenged in a labor relations court, and that was the stay was on that the process. So having said that, the assembly also has business to transact, right? And we have not said we have substantively replaced her. We have just put one of us in the acting capacity, so that the assembly business does not grind into a halt because of the issue of the speaker.
Okay.
Yes.
But the issue then would be, even if, because there are those who argue she's still rightfully the speaker, the court in staying the matter means she's still the speaker, but she now cannot come to transact and business and lead the transaction of business because of the acrimonious nature of the relationship with the MCAs. We saw what happened the other day in her office, so that the MCAs have made it impossible for her to continue to serve because this order allows her to until the matter is heard and determined. So, aren't the MCAs in and of themselves being rogue and not obeying the law to the letter?
First of all, I don't want to get involved in the processes because there was a mover, and that mover was able to gather enough signatures to bring the motion on the floor, and it was debated, it was voted for, right? In that whole process, there was no challenging, including the special sitting which she herself signed. Once the process has been done and completed with, we are now in a situation where here we are, we have to resume business. We have our members. The law provides that amongst ourselves, we need to get somebody who can proceed in that direction. Now, about whether she's supposed to be here, that interpretation can happen maybe in court, because as far as the assembly is done, they did what they did, and 97% on that day pronounced themselves on that matter.
Right.
So until that issue is finalized, then now we can talk about substantively or not substantively.
So you do not see your actions and those of the entire county assembly in installing you as the acting speaker being in contempt of court?
I have shown you the law. I have shown you the law that we've
You
used.
have, but there's also an order that stays that process so that there is still a speaker, and there's also that order goes further to say do not proceed with further impeachment. So technically, or rather on that order, there is a speaker, so that why is there an acting speaker when there is a speaker? So there's no contempt in your view?
There is an acting, the speaker, even when the speaker is not there, there's a way matters and house business is transacted. So in the event that the speaker is not there, and the law says in the matters that directly affects the speaker, and surely what happened, including all the mafirifiris and everything, surely there were matters affecting the speaker. So now, where we are is that we ask ourselves, and you remember that before the acting, I was the majority whip. We asked ourselves, what do we do? How do we transact business? Nairobi has myriad of issues. One, there's a Moranga and Akaine, the water issue, that we need to pronounce ourselves to it. Of course, the perennial issues that we have, the demolitions, the issues that members were actually affecting Nairobians. So we felt, do we get bogged down with this, or do we now get to the matters that really affect Nairobians? And so we said, can we put somebody in acting capacity? And they said it was me, and that is why I have not relinquished Ngara, because I'm just acting. Once that issue is sorted out, we'll move that process at that point.
Okay, briefly clarify to our viewers who say they hear there's a deputy speaker.
Yes.
Isn't that the person that should be acting now?
Thank you very much on the issue of Deputy Speaker. Now, the law is silent on the position of the Deputy Speaker of the county assemblies. There is a court case that was done, finalized, I think, Judge Pauline Nyamwea in the case of Machakos. There was also another case of Meru. There's also another case for Muranga, challenging the position of the Deputy Speaker. Having said that, what the law provides is a chair of chairs, or the chair of all the committees in the House. That technically works as the Deputy Speaker. What we did, members, if the law that we've used to get an acting does not contemplate that in the event that there are matters directly affecting the Speaker, we go for the chair of chairs, right? So it says a member. And that is where we, in the wisdom of the MCAs or the Nairobi Assembly, they decided that it is good to have that member still as a chair of chairs, and we now go ahead and get an acting person in an acting position of the speaker. Yes.
All right, and finally, the conduct of the MCAs that day in her office, Elachi's office. You must have a word or two, because many admonished the manner in which they went into her office and tried to grab her and kick her out.
I would not want to really dwell on that, but two issues that also need to show up. That one, this was immediately after the impeachment process, and these members, rightfully, you know, the way you feel angry is not the way I feel angry. Felt that why is our process not being taken seriously? Then you go to somebody's office, then you are sprayed with a pepper spray. Maybe allegedly. That but it was in your media. We saw those photos. Those who were around there, you actually saw it. So maybe that commotion and the process may not have been very nice, but again, you also cannot judge people's feelings. However, moving forward, as the MCAs of Nairobi, we feel that we are now done with the all the sideshows and the dramas. Let us focus on what now needs to be done. Remember that, again, this is 1 year immediately since we got elected. This is immediately 1 year. Now, once you have 1 year, and of course the last year is bogged down with elections, you're actually left with actually 2.5 years. Okay. So people are serious. We want to know how do we reinvigorate the committees that are there? How do we ensure that the processes that Nairobians actually voted for these members are actually taken care of? And that is maybe what they had in mind when they brought me on board.
Okay, yeah. One word. Is Beatrice Elachi's goose cooked? Yes or no?
Goose cooked in what sense?
She's done in terms of being Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly. She's challenged it in court, yeah. But in as far as even if she was brought back, the members and their feelings and what you've seen, yes or no?
I have pronounced myself very clearly that what we are doing, we have that position having been filled in an acting capacity. Okay. So I leave it at that.
You leave it at that. Yeah. Many thanks, Shege Mwaura. He is the acting speaker now of the Nairobi County Assembly, and they say they are well within the law, Michelle, in the decision they took yesterday to unanimously install him as the acting speaker to be able to transact business going forward, Michelle.
And are they well within the law is a conversation we're trying to have here on The Big Story. Your hashtag is The Big Story. You can give us your comments. We'll be sampling some of them in the course of this bulletin. Many thanks, Sophia. Let's now cross over live to Karen and speak to the Jubilee Party Secretary General, Raphael Tuju, on the party position on the drama that has rocked the Nairobi County Assembly. Later on, I'll be bringing in lawyer Steve Ogola just to interpret the law and whether the County Assembly really is within its mandate. And later on, Mary Arivisa, the nominated member of the Nairobi County Assembly, who was the center of a debacle yesterday. But first, let's speak to Raphael Tuju. Many thanks for joining us on The Big Story tonight. The Jubilee Party, the biggest party in the House, seems to be in agreement with the County Assembly in its decision to have an acting speaker. What is the party's direction on this?
Well, we do have very little locus on the matter of the speaker, because the thing is that after the speaker has been appointed, I've got too much echo. I got too much echo, Sophia.
All right, we apologize for that. Let me just go back to that question again. What is the position of the Jubilee Party in the matter of the acting speaker?
Well, one of the things that we have to appreciate that this matter is in court, so the court process is still on. And then, of course, there's the matters which proceeded within the floor of the County Assembly. As far as the party is concerned, the person who was elected to be the speaker is Beatrice Elachi. But she was elected by the members of the County Assembly, the MCAs. We are not sure exactly what happened, but she seems to have lost their confidence or or whatever happened, but we have followed with interest whatever happened inside at the assembly itself. What we've done on our part is that we have called on Beatrice Elachi to come and explain to us her side of the story. Unfortunately, she has not been able to make it yet, but we are meeting her tomorrow. We have met with our leadership in the county assembly, that is the majority leader and the majority chief whip. But we have to appreciate that the speaker is not just elected by Jubilee. The speaker is elected by both sides of the house. And in this particular case, the numbers that voted included both sides of the house. So there seems to be some very serious problem at the assembly. We can talk about the court process, we can talk about the law, but as Jubilee Party, we are also quite cognizant with the fact that it is also a political matter, so we are looking for a political solution.
And you rightfully mentioned that you cannot say much about this case because it is a case that is in court. Doesn't that then leave the county assembly in contempt, however, having gone ahead to elect an acting speaker despite having there been orders from the Employment and Labour Relations Court pretty much reinstating Elachi back to her position until a case is heard and determined?
Well, you do have a lawyer on this discussion. I hope that the lawyer can be able to answer that. And also the right institution to establish where there was contempt or there is contempt or not is the courts themselves. So I would not like to speculate on that matter.
All right. Once again, just before I let you go, the Jubilee Party, being the majority party in the House, I know has been, at a very difficult position considering the conduct of members of County Assembly, especially on the 6th of September when they stormed Beatrice Elachi's office asking for her removal. What does the Jubilee Party have to say about the conduct of members of County Assembly?
I think it was a very unfortunate incident that should not happen. As far as this impeachment matter is concerned, I mean, this was not the first time. There was another time when there was an attempt to impeach her, and as a party, we did intervene and we prevailed on the members not to do it. This time around, I was myself out of the country when the process started, and I got something like 2-hour notice. But at the end of the day, the floor of the House do have a certain amount of independence from the parties, which means that when they go through that process and they manage to get the 2/3 prerequisite numbers that are required to impeach a speaker, then the Jubilee Party has very few options.
And you mentioned that it is a political problem as well, and matters gender as political as it gets in this country. We've seen women leaders across the country come out to support Beatrice Elachi. Many have been asking, where does the Jubilee Party stand? Even if it is supporting the decision to have an acting speaker, why then wouldn't it have replaced Elachi with a female?
We have not looked at that, but should it happen that another speaker is to be proposed, and in which case the Jubilee has the numbers to be able to put forward a candidate, then we'll look at that. But when you're talking in terms of acting, I don't think it's really a big issue.
All right, many thanks. That is Raphael Tuju. There he is, the Jubilee Party Secretary General, trying to distance the Jubilee Party pretty much with what is going on within the Nairobi County Assembly. He does point out to serious problems within the County Assembly. He also says that this is a political problem. He does, however, rightly point out that as it stands, Beatrice Elachi is the rightful Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, but she was elected by the members of County Assembly. Well, let's bring in Steve Ogole now, just to interpret the law for us. Steve, many thanks for joining us on the big story tonight. The first question on everybody's mind is the Nairobi County Assembly in contempt of court?
Certainly, yes, they're in contempt of court. First of all, let me just emphasize that what happened in the Assembly is an indecent and inglorious attempt to manipulate Section 9 of the County Governments Act. And therefore, the outcome of such a process is of no legal effect. Let me explain. The key word in Section 9 of the County Governments Act is in the absence of the Speaker. You see, in terms of interpretation, absence of the Speaker means that there is a substantive office holder who is not within the Assembly. So you must understand that there's a substantive office holder who is not in the Assembly either because they have been incapacitated, maybe through ailment, or they have traveled, in which case, in order to facilitate the transaction of the business of the Assembly, members may then elect one of their own to sit there temporarily. Now, Beatrice Elachi was refused entry into the Assembly, so she's not absent. In terms of construction or interpretation, she is legally in office because the High Court said, the Labour Court said, that the impeachment process, and indeed we know, was irregular and therefore the outcome was illegal. What Section 11 of the County Governments Act provides, which the MCAs again manipulated to their own partisan political benefit, it says that the process towards impeachment of a speaker requires that she must be given an opportunity to respond to the charges against her. We are aware that Elachi was not given an opportunity to respond, that the MCA in fact amended that provision of the law to excuse them from the responsibility or from the requirement of giving an opportunity. Now, there's a problem of design. Even if you could amend the law on the floor of the Assembly, that law cannot take effect immediately until it has been published. So it's not possible in law to amend a provision on the floor of the House, then apply it almost immediately. Be it as it may, the court was very clear that this is the substantive office holder. If the MCAs want to impeach her in a political process, that's okay, but they must follow the laid-down process. Meanwhile, awaiting the outcome of that, awaiting the determination of that case, Elachi is the substantive office holder. She attempted to go back. She was refused entry, which means legally she is not absent from the Assembly. So it is indecent and inglorious for MCAs to come back, manipulate Section 9 of the County Governments Act, by then purporting to elect, this Ngara MCA, Chege, to be the acting speaker. Right. You cannot elect an acting speaker in the presence of a substantive office holder. It's a temporary measure that recognizes that there is a substantive office holder. In fact, if it is the position...
we'll have to come back to you, Steve, yes, as we continue with this, because we have to make our viewers understand this. When we come back from this break, we'll also be bringing in nominated Member of County Assembly, Mary Arivisa. She will be joining us live from our city centre studios. Remember, she was the centre of a debacle yesterday in the chambers after she was proposed for the position of acting speaker in absentia. Do stay with us. This is The Big Story.